Hey guys, I just wanted to welcome you all back to online school. I'm here on my porch here at my house, and I've started gathering some things together that I thought might help you to be able to find your own creative space at home. Today, I've chosen to work out on my patio. I don't want you guys to feel like you have to have any particular space that you have to work in. It's wherever you feel like you can be creative and wherever your subject matter is. I guess really the first thing I wanted to say to you is that I wish I was there at school with you guys. I'm definitely catching up on my sleep now. I had a couple of sleepless nights the first couple of weeks where I just didn't know what was going on. Like some of you've probably had some pretty weird dreams. This is kind of surreal. Even though I'm catching up on my sleep, and that's a nice side benefit, I really wish I was there at school with you guys. I know I had a lot of things I was looking forward to this year. We had a field trip planned. We had the art show planned. We had some students that were going to be having some award ceremonies that I wanted to go to. So I know that this is not ideal for you guys also. You've had field trips canceled and tryouts delayed. Maybe you're doing tryouts online. You don't know what's going to happen in the next week or the next month, but just know that this is a good time, if you can, just to slow down and reflect. In some ways, it really can be a gift. I wanted you guys to know that I'm praying for you all. You're on my mind. I'm thinking of you and your families. And also, as you're coming back to school, I know you have a lot of things that you may be obligated to do that may limit your ability to be creative right now. So I know you may be looking after siblings. You may be having to help more at home with cooking and cleaning. Maybe you only have one computer. I want you to know that I'm taking all of that into account. Anything that you do creatively is going to be appreciated, and I look forward to seeing it. I'm here for you. If you have any questions or needs, please just email me and let me know what I can do to help. If you have questions about the video today, or if you want some inspiring resources, I'm still your teacher. And officially this week we are back at work. So I am here for you. Don't hesitate if you need anything. So I'm going to be posting a lot of assignments online that are really kind of what you choose to do. I'm going to give you about 15 to 20 things that you can choose from, and every week I want you to pick one thing, and I want you to do that to the best of your ability for at least an hour. So give me an hour of your time every week and show me something creative that you've done. And that's what I'm going to do for you today. Is I'm going to be creating right along with you. 1 hour a week, I'm going to do something creatively. So if you like that concept, tune in to the video that I'll post every week. And if you have questions about it, let me know and I'll address it in the next video or in an email privately. Okay, so a couple of things you may be wondering are, and I'm going to address these as I'm talking today. First of all, how do I find the time and space to do this? Where do I get my materials? You're not at school where you have access to all the what we consider art materials, and that's not important. You can find things to be creative with. And then where do I get my ideas? So I'm going to be going through the creative process, or at least my creative process with you today, and in producing, maybe you don't have a sketchbook, so we're not going to call it a sketchbook, but I'm going to be producing a drawing, a sketch really. It's going to take about an hour altogether, and give you some insight into the creative process. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about finding time and space. So I have chosen just to work outside today. It took me a little bit to gather some materials, and I'm planning to keep those in a bag. I'm just going to gather those things in a bag, and I'll have those every day to work with. I think I may store those over here in the shed, so I have those accessible. You may want to work in your bedroom, or maybe you'd rather work on the couch and just carry that bag with you. You don't have to have an easel or a fancy studio. As far as materials, you guys can see that today I'm just going to be working on an old grocery bag. And I was thinking a lot of you don't have paints, you don't have brushes, you don't have to have anything fancy. I'm going to be painting with spoons and forks, and I went around in my yard and I picked up some sticks, and I've got some masking tape. I don't know if you have any, but you don't have to. And maybe your mother or grandmother or sister or somebody has some old scrapbook paper. Maybe you can use a sketchbook if you have it. These are just old house paints. These are actually the colors that are in my house. I'm going to be painting with those today. Maybe you have out in your shed, or maybe your mom or dad or somebody has just some old wood that you can paint on. Here's an example of just some abstract painting I put together a couple of years ago with some leftover house paint and some wood. This is an old onion skin bag that I grabbed. I thought that might give some nice texture. And I'm going to drop some things on this assignment in the links that'll give you some idea of some found materials that you can use. What about a Q-tip? I mean, if you can stick it in the paint, you can make marks with it. I was walking past the counter and I saw this top that goes on my cooking spray. That could create some stamps with. As far as subject matter, it really doesn't have to be fancy. I have a tendency to paint things I can identify with. So my girls are grown now. So I'm a little nostalgic about when they were little. So I've used their old shoes before, like in the painting that you see here. Think about things that you love, that when you draw them, you'll enjoy drawing them because they have meaning to you. These have meaning to me because my art teacher gave them to me. She was my middle school art teacher, and she passed away about this time last year. She was about 97 years old. And she'd led a really good long life, and she was a very inspiring teacher. I found a potting bench over here on my patio that I thought would work better for setting this up. Maybe you could find something like that you could set yours up, and you could do a time-lapse drawing and post that on Instagram or post that on a Facebook page. Okay, so I've just got this old Aldi paper sack that I'm going to work on top of. And remember, I've got all those house paint colors that I'm going to bring over and show you. Maybe your family has some old house paint samples, and if they do, one of the wonderful things about having all those old house paint samples is when they picked these colors, they were probably already thinking about, and by the way, if you don't have house paint, use whatever you have. We're going to talk more about that next week. Next week we're going to do something I'm going to call a pantry raid. We're going to go into my kitchen pantry and find some things that you can create art with. So here's some of the old house paint colors that I have. This will give you some idea of the colors that are inside my house that I really love. And if you're going to use house paint, I would definitely use it outside or with an open window. Always think about safety concerns because you don't want to make yourself sick when working with these. And you don't have to have fancy paint sticks for working with these. If you don't have a paint stick, I've just got some old sticks from the yard that I'm going to paint with, and you can stir your paint with. Something else you might think of painting with is parts of an old cardboard box. Of course, you know right now you need to be careful. Anything you're getting shipped to your house, clean that off, disinfect it, or let it sit in your garage for several days. But I can take this and just tear this into several pieces, and this can be used to paint with. So I think I want to start with something like a neutral background. Already this paper sack has a neutral background, and we could work directly on top of that, but just for the sake of showing you kind of the process of covering your page, I'm going to cover mine anyway. And I'm going to walk you guys through the process of what I think about when I'm creating. One of the first things I think about about layers. So I want to have some really rich layers on here. These challenge you to think creatively, and it builds the complexity in your composition. And it helps the work feel finished faster because you're getting rid of that white, that blank white part of the page that a lot of people are scared to touch. When you get in there and you start actively adding layers in, then first of all, it's just fun and creative, and it gets your ideas flowing, but it also kind of builds up this eye candy that's really fun to look at. Cardboard, or you could pick something else to come back through and start scratching in some things. Okay, so if I'm going to start laying down some marks, one of the things I want to think about is composition. We talked about in class composition. Some of the best compositions are going to have the rule of thirds. And with the rule of thirds, and I'm just going to literally draw this on here, with the rule of thirds, you divide your scene into thirds, almost like a tic-tac-toe pattern. I think I'm going to get rid of this by the end. But where these intersect, one of these would be a good place for your focal area. So I think, now that I have that on there, I think I'm going to let my focal area be right over in here. And I can create leading lines that help to draw attention over to that focal area, and I can create those with dabs or daubs, or I can draw them coming up to that area. I could create a visual rhythm, maybe even with alternating colors. This is where I just kind of make this up on the fly, and it can be fun. I've got two alternating colors here, and maybe I could come straight across, or maybe I could rhythmically move up towards that focal area. I think I'm going to do that and just kind of repeat those coming up to that focal area. And I really like that. I think I'm going to repeat that some more, but I don't want it to be a really jarring color, so I think I'll take this orange. It seems to be a little more subtle, and I will kind of calm down those dark lines that I've created coming up to that point. I want I'm going to be drawing my jade plants. I want those to really be the focal area. And it's okay if those lines are broken. Remember, you can be messy right up until the point where you want to have contrast, where people will see your focal area there at the end. Don't be afraid to just play. Hey, you know what? If we're going to put, now that I think about it, if I'm going to put my focal area right here, I'm going to need some really good contrast. And to have really good contrast, we want to have like really dark darks and really light lights. So I could take this color right here and go ahead and just daub that in. All right, I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come back. You know, go get lunch, whatever. This is a good time to have a break. Okay, so I found this comb upstairs, and I was thinking that would make some really nice, interesting texture. A lot of this has mostly dried, so I thought I would come back through and just scratch some of this texture in before it dries completely. These little scrubbies can make for interesting texture. You can take it and pat it, squiggle it around. You can even take it and press it onto surfaces to create textures. Lay it in your paint. Press those textures. This is my bottom layer. Now, I talked to you guys yesterday about some of the important things to think about when you're putting together a composition. Rule of thirds, and I set up my underpainting, if you will, my layers here to help complement the drawing that I'm going to be putting on top. So I could draw directly on top of this. Usually when I draw directly on top of something, I like to have a color that's contrasting, and I was thinking there may not be a lot of you that have something that you can draw with that's white. But one thing that I might think of is I could draw something in this white, or maybe paint it in, so that it shows up on that black surface. If you don't have a white paint pen, you could just use white or really light paint like this material that I was using yesterday. Alternatively, you could take a white piece of paper and you could draw something else, and then you could transfer that onto your surface. If you don't have white paper, look at things that you might have white on the back of, like old scrapbook paper, or you can draw directly on the scrapbook paper. Maybe all you have around the house is tissue paper or old wrapping paper, and that could work too. You might think about what you want to go on your surface, hold it next to your work, and see if you think that that would go well with what you have. Like, one thing I like about this is this has a lot of circles in it, and there's already a lot of circles in my composition, so it might be kind of interesting if I included that in some places. Now, I saved my leftover paints yesterday. I didn't want to have a whole lot of cleanup, so I just flipped over more containers. You know, maybe you're using plastic bowls, maybe you're using styrofoam plates or something. If you just flip them over on the top, maybe just spray or drip some water in there, then that should stay good overnight. Okay, so my first layers I did for you guys yesterday. Second layer, I've decided that I am going to use this wallpaper. When I was first looking at it, I was thinking, you know, the patterns and the colors, they don't really match what I have there. But that can actually bring some visual excitement. The key to creating visual excitement with two very different things is having something that's in common. And right now, the circles are something that's in common. So that's going to seem to match. And although the colors don't match right now, I'm going to repeat these shapes and colors enough across the scene that that's going to unify it, and it's going to make it visually cohesive. This is my subject matter that I'm going to be drawing. That's that jade plant I was telling you about yesterday. Now, the paper here is dark, so I needed something light to draw with, and you could use a paint pen like I was mentioning before, but with the paint pen, a lot of you may not have that, but maybe you've got some kind of white house paint or something that you could draw with, or maybe you could think of some other ways to create contrast. And I know I want this to be pretty big. I want it to fill like at least 2/3 of the page, so I'm going to try to fill this up. So I'm gonna need to let this dry, maybe go have some lunch and come back. Okay, I've had lunch, I'll come back, it's dry. Let's see what we can do with this. Okay, so when I first made this, I talked to you about leaving that dark, and I was thinking in my head that what I made would show up. These look also similar in value, so I think what I'm going to need to do, and this really kind of hammer home my focal area anyway, is find some other color, some contrasting color, that when put underneath that is really going to help this show up. So by repeating shapes and repeating colors, then I can create a sense of rhythm and movement, and by isolating things with a geometric shape and the rule of thirds, I can help enhance my focal area. The only thing I feel like I'm missing is really nice, strong contrast, and with a little more time, I know I could figure that one out. Anyway, Willard and I have enjoyed having you guys here on our back porch making art with us. Yes, I'm still wearing the same shirt I wore yesterday. I can do that when I teach from home. I can't wait to see what you guys are producing at home. Please post it up online. Please post it up on Google Classroom. I'd love to share it online. If you don't want me to share it, please send me an email and just tell me don't share any of my things, or you can comment just on the work that you post. I've enjoyed visiting with y'all today. Everybody take care. Bye.